Hey, Justin, just for you, that person sitting next to you brought a nice little PowerPoint slide.
I saw that.
At the end of today's lesson, you can get a copy of that if you need
I can
it.
take that home and study it?
Yeah.
Test
just
on
like
Monday?
a regular, yes. Like
There'll be a test.
I'm in.
You will be tested next
It
week.
is entertainment.
I will fail it even with the notes. She could give me the answers and I'm still going to fuck it up.
Somehow, some way.
Yep.
Okay, so last week we left off and you had just contacted your department and were asking for help. But because I'll do the introductions, T's with us today, Justin, Griffin from last week.
What is it? Griffith?
Griffith.
Or Griffith, there you
Right,
go.
what'd you think I said?
Griffin.
No. Griffith. And Shellie Ruge, not to be...
Ruge.
Ruge.
God, you're like really messing my
Oh,
name.
my
I
gosh.
don't have...
What the hell?
Welcome, Betty, to the show.
I called her Shellie Ruge,
Shellie-
Ruge.
Shellie Ruge.
Her. Hey, just use the official pronoun. Her. This is
Hey, some
her.
people fuck my name up all the time, so I'm going to fuck some people's name up.
How can you fuck up Manny?
You'd be surprised. They spell it funny. M-A-N-N-I-E.
Manny?
Yeah.
That's cute.
Oh, you fuck-
M-A-N-H-A was Monet. That was
Bill?
on Starbucks.
Bill?
Somebody working behind the counter spelled it that way.
He's never going to live that down. He's now
No.
Manet.
Did you just sit there and be like, what the
From now
fuck did
on.
you do?
Yeah.
Hooked on phonics did not work.
It's very French.
Red for Ed.
So, anyways, with the introductions being done, we're going to go back a little ways to the whole...
Were you going to
Snorting.
introduce her before we get
I
started?
did. Shellie.
He screwed up
Yes.
her. He screwed up her name. Remember?
Well, I know, but her name, but are you going to
Her.
say
Yeah, I'm going to give her an opportunity
is
to talk
her.
about who she is, what her education
before
is.
you get back into him?
Yes,
Jesus.
See, she's got it. Him and her.
Have you even pushed play yet?
I did.
What
I
the
hit
hell?
record. You're questioning me now.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I give up. I can't hear myself in my headphones.
Okay.
Yeah, that's low.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I'm just going to set the stage, T, if that's all right. We're going to go back to the question when we were laughing last week about who thought it'd be a good idea to crush up their meds and snort them, because he checked every single box. So, with that being said, Shellie, do you want to
We're
introduce
not
yourself?
talking to you anymore.
Thank you for telling me to crush up my pills and snort
Yeah.
them.
Do you want to introduce yourself and your background?
I'm Shellie Ruge. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Scottsdale, and I love working with first responders.
Because
Like-
we're fun.
I
It's like
do.
a dating match.
You are
Fun.
fun.
She introduced
It
herself.
is.
It's like the dating game. Only
It is like that.
I like big rifles, lots of rounds. Bulletproof
I'm
vests do
Scorpio.
it for me.
It's always good when you come to a Pistol podcast and you're sitting in the peanut gallery and you realize the guest talking is your therapist. That was awesome. People came in and were like, yeah, woo, I haven't seen you since, I don't know
I
when.
haven't seen you since you prescribed me and screwed up my whole career. Thanks.
She actually fixed that.
Oh.
Shellie fixed that.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so introductions made. T.
I'm over it now.
All right, sounds good. So the addiction portion of it, I know in the last podcast I asked you the point of snorting your meds was for the high.
Mhm.
What were you at that point? How did you get from just popping the pills to snorting them? What in your mind told you that was a good idea?
That damn cop.
Well, we know that.
Yeah. Well, the difference between snorting them and actually ingesting them is the metabolite. You know, you metabolize them quicker. So once it goes up your nose, 2 to 4 minutes, you're already feeling the high to where you put it down your throat and swallow it. There's 45, 50 minutes sometimes 30 if you're lucky.
How many were crushing?
Shit. Like anybody, I started out with, 1 or 2, and then it got up to 5 to 10 at a time, taking 30 in a day. It all just depends on how many I had. You ration them out. Say you get your script on, it's a Monday, you get, the doctors give me an absurd amount, so I'd get 300 of the 30s, and then 120 of the Opanas, and mixing the two together and squirting it once, you're good for 4 or 5 hours. So it all just depends on how many you add. And then when you got towards the end of that first week, when they're supposed to last you a month, and you're going, oh shit, I'm almost out.
Right.
You start to break it down and slow down a little bit, which then you don't get as high, and then you start looking for that high, then it goes into the buying them off the streets.
So do you remember the time that you thought to yourself, okay, I'm crossing the line, and
Yeah, and it's funny you asked that because I remember, me and you talked about this in the past. I remember the first time I really realized I was a cop. I remember I told you I was driving up 19th Avenue, and I was like driving in a Phoenix car. I'm like, holy shit, I'm really a police officer. Where I had that thing hit me right upside the face one day back in 2012. I was going, fuck, I'm really a drug addict.
Yeah.
I've switched from carrying a gun to carry a pill bottle. And, it came full circle when I realized what I was doing. It wasn't, I sat in the mirror one day and I was sick from not having any, and it was 4 hours till I could get my script and go to the doctor, and I was more anxious and anxious than anything I ever felt. And I realized I was on a downward spiral with the drugs. But it took a little bit of that because I had nothing, I had an abundance of them. I tried to make sure that I didn't run out, or the people I was associated with had some too, so I never went dry most of the time. There was those times when you did, when you're going, fuck, and you're sick, and
trying to get your fix.
99% of the time when you have them, you don't worry about it because you have them. You don't think, oh, I'm a drug addict, or I don't, because you're high and you're retarded half the times. You're numb and you don't have to think about anything.
Right.
And that's what you wanted to be. I mean, but when it comes to PTSD and everything I was feeling, I didn't want to be knowledgeable, knowing, and functioning. I wanted to be retarded and who cares, and have all my ambitions and my thoughts and my nightmares go away.
And crushing the pills and snorting them did that.
Oh, right away. I mean, like I said, if you had to take them, by the mouth, say you're at a family, thing, and you couldn't get away, and you had to slide two in your mouth, you're like, son of a bitch, I'm going to have to wait 45 minutes, god damn it. Instead of snorting and boom, okay, let's go, I'm ready to go. And then, it's just like any drug addict will tell you, you feel more social. You're able to let your ambitions go. You're able to not worry about the shit you worry about in real life. You're relaxed, and it's a calming effect. It's just like what alcohol does.
I was going to
to
say, the same shit with alcohol.
Same thing, just quicker and stronger.
So, Shellie, you and I had talked before, over the last week, about it not being a choice. I think we said it's not, some people choose.
Yeah. Yeah, we like to use the choice theory in our culture and call it a morality issue, and it's a medical issue. Mm-hmm. And we need to really get real about that and have some real conversations about how we're going to approach this disease, because it's a midbrain disease. It's truly a midbrain disease because we have an organ, and that organ has an injury, and therefore it's a dis-ease, right? When we really knock it down and we really look at it. And one of the things that I hear you talking about is really what I call trauma addiction. And I always put that together because it always reminds me that I've never seen it. I've never seen addiction without trauma. I've never seen it. So by using that term, it really reminds me to approach it in terms of what Gabor Mate would say. Don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. Then you can get to the real deal and you can get to the healing and not be chasing symptoms.
So you said, Tanya and I did a podcast with Lauren, and she showed us the brain.
Uh-huh.
We got a little bit of an educated part in that. You said midbrain. What does that mean? Where in our brains, because we don't have physical injuries clearly, if we're not, but where in the brain is that affecting us when you say midbrain? Like directly center in the brain?
Absolutely. So when you really look at a model of the brain, and I like to keep it really simple,
Thank you.
No, in terms of, for me to be able to move with it and work with it, right? So the midbrain is really the limbic system of the brain. And that's where it's the millisecond brain. It's 1/15 of a second. It's the right now, right? It comes before thought. It's 400 times faster in its processing speed than the frontal cortex, which actually curls up and over. That's why the brain looks like it folded over onto itself, right? Choice lives in the prefrontal cortex and the frontal cortex. That's where choice lives, because that's the evaluative part of the brain. That's where we go, okay, what are the pros? What are the cons? Should I? Shouldn't I? What is that about? It's a slow brain. Very slow brain. That's not where addiction lives. Addiction lives right here. And that's where it's eat, sex, right? It's our basic needs, and they're right now. So a lot of times when someone's addicted, right, they'll come to you and they'll say, well, you know what, the drink was down my throat before I even knew what was happening. We're like, yeah, whatever. But you know what? It's true. They're absolutely right. They're absolutely right, because that impulse occurs before thought. That's a really important thing to remember when we're really looking at this disease and getting a handle on it, because that's where craving lives too.
Because that's
right?
how I drink my whiskeys.
There you go. See?
And on what she's saying is that I didn't believe any of that, until recently. I went through all these rehabs and these detoxes, and they were telling me that it was, because my father already said, it's your choice. You're making the choice to do that. So in my fucked up head, I was like, oh yeah, I have the choice. And there was this movie, Addiction Uncovered or something like that.
Pleasure Unwoven.
There you go. And I had to watch that video a couple times because I started watching it, and it put me in tears because I actually explained what the fuck I was doing, because most of the time, you're right, I'm putting a needle in my arm, or I'm sniffing a pill before I actually realize what I'm doing and the consequences of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And me and my wife had this discussion when we first met, that choice is gone. Once your plate fills up, and they talk about it as flowing over, like your water bottle's flowing over to another, and once you already made that decision and you're already that fucked up that you're going to use, you're already using. If it gets to that point, there's no choice. There's no free will involved in it. And I mean, obviously we can make our own decisions, but when you get that involved in it, it's already down your throat, up your nose, or in your arm.
So what about our brain part is broken that's saying, feed that addiction, whether it's shopping or drinking or heroin, or how can you explain how that works in the brain? Like why we go straight to, like for me, alcohol. What is that? What part of the brain is not either talking, or what part is talking to tell us to go to the alcohol?
It's a broken, what we would call the pleasure sense, right? When you look at that DVD, it's called Pleasure Unwoven by Kevin McCauley. Really powerful. I've probably seen that thing 100 times, and I still get something different out of it every time. It's content rich, and I think it's something everybody should watch. Everybody should have a basic understanding of addiction, because 1 in 10 people have an allergy to the, right? 1 in 10 people, that is not rare. That is not rare. And when you look at law enforcement, now we're looking at exponentially 20 to 30% of law enforcement is struggling with this disease, as opposed to 10% of the general population. That's a problem.
Let me add something to that, not to interrupt you. But when law enforcement has that and they're being affected by it, they don't want to admit it or acknowledge it. So we're already too deep by the time we discover it's a problem. Just like drinking.
It's shameful. It's shameful.
Yeah, and because we have this persona in this society that it's wrong, it's bad, it's looked bad upon. Listen, more people are addicted to a substance or to a thing than we know about. I mean, it's sad when you go into a room and say you're in a rehab center and there's 50 people in there, and the odds are 2 out of every 10 people might stay clean a year. I mean, that's sad when you're thinking about it. You get in a room full of 100 people. That's 10 people out of 100 people that might make it, not are going, that might. And then out of those 10 people, maybe 1 might actually make it more than a year. And those statistics are frightening. And then when you go with the overdose rate, and especially with everything coming up from Mexico and coming across the pond right now, is laced with fentanyl.
Right.
And we got Narcan. There's 2 types of fentanyl out there that are Narcan resistant. So what are you going to do then? So you got all these first-time or maybe second-time, and let's say first responders that are experimenting these things. They get hurt. The doctor prescribes them something, because doctors are very giving to cops. Doctors are very, very, oh, you're a cop. Here we go. We know you'll be smart with this shit. Well, then they run out and maybe on a call, hey, I found a bottle of fucking perks. Well, they're not the right ones. They're the ones with fentanyl.
Right.
They used to taking 2 at a time. They sniff 1, they're fucking dead. Yeah. It's done. It's just because, and like she's talking about, and that choice has already been made for us. Once we get to that point, our thought process is reversed, and it's just to understand that and finally understand what the fuck was going on with me with the addiction part, which was tied to the PTSD part. It was amazing to know that, everybody said fight the addiction first. The PTSD will get healed. No, the addiction will be there until I get the PTSD under control, and that was. I was so fucking tired of hearing to all these people tell me what was wrong with me and having no fucking clue what was wrong with me, because
they were treating the addiction.
They were treating the addiction, and the only reason I was addicted because the PTSD was out of control.
Right.
And, oh no, you take this and this and this and your PTSD will go away. Well, really? Because you haven't even treated it. You don't even know what the fuck's wrong with me. No, but trust me. And these are regular addiction doctors thinking they know, well, no, you're an addict. I treat trauma all the time. No, you're treating the addiction and not even talking about trauma.
Is that pretty common?
Absolutely happens all the time. And there are therapists, I run into therapists all the time who will say, well, I don't work with substance disorders or dependence. I'm like, how could you do that? Because 50 to 96% of people who have PTSD or something like that, and I want to open that up because there are many people who don't have the official diagnosis who are suffering just as badly. And it depends, what are we calling it? We may call it depression, we may call it anxiety, we may call it other trauma and stressor related disorders, right? But we really want to understand that this is a brain thing. And so it's really important to get this, 50 to 96%. So if we look at it as trauma addiction, coming back to that term, that's why that term is so important. Because how can we treat the addiction without treating the trauma? How do we do that? I don't think it's possible.
Is that a doctor's? I mean, if this is such common and prevalent thing, why are the doctors not addressing it the way it should be addressed?
I think everybody has their own stuff, but one of the issues is this is a brain disease that has difficult behavior attached to it, and people judge the behavior because they don't understand the disease.
Right.
Well, that's common. That's common. As cops on the street, we're not talking to these drug addicts and thinking they've got a disease. We're thinking you're making the fucking choice.
You're a junkie.
Yeah, exactly. You're making the choice to use these drugs. So it's no different for a doctor to say the same thing.
And it's funny you say that because we look at the repetitive emotion with all the people we deal with on a regular basis. They're 90% of them are drug addicts, right? So you got this drug addict. They're going to break into this house. They're going to the pawn shop to sell what they broke in this house. They get, a felony warrant or misdemeanor warrant for the burglary, and then for the pawning stuff, we arrest them. Or even just a normal junkie walking down the street. You stop. Subject stops somebody, search them. They have dope on them. We arrest them. The courts nowadays are, that's a proposition where they can just get out on their whatever the hell it is, and they're out in 2 days. Well, what do they got to do when they get back out? They got to get their fix, right? So what did we just create? We created that revolving cycle because Jim, Bob, Joe, or June are going to go right back and break into another house, go pawn something, and it's just a repetitive sick cycle instead of taking, get that drug addict. And I know they're not going to go, but take them to, CBI, Community Bridges, and drop them off there instead of arresting them for the dope they've been charged 17 times with. Because what are you're going to send them back to prison where the dope is more accessible in prison than it is out on the street? Right. I mean, if we could start trying to figure out a way to break that initial habit from the user's point of view. And I know it's, as an outsider who used to look inside on this, well, we should be able to fix anybody. No, nobody's going to get fixed until they want to fix themselves. And that's the biggest thing that was the hardest thing to explain to my parents, because my dad used to say, well, you got my blood in you, boy, you can fix yourself. Well, you know what, I'm not you, for one thing. And B, I have different trauma than you have. I'm a different entity than you have. I have different emotions, and I'm deeper into something you've never been into. And it's not just as, well, my DNA should be able to, it's not. And
wow, you got a trailer park right there, dude.
I love my dad to death. God bless you, sir. When you watch this, please don't call me over and whoop my ass. I love you to death. But, they just don't understand. And, my poor mother has, she's on a website, Mothers of Addicts, and sends me all these cute little sayings all the time. And she's trying to understand.
Right.
But they never, and just like, you won't ever understand my heroin addiction. I'll never understand Mark's sex addiction. All these different addictions, we'll never understand each other. But it's a common place. It's why AA is open to everybody. It's a common ground to where, and people bitch about the 12 steps, and I'm tired of, Penn and Teller were on YouTube the other day, and I wanted to reach through the freaking YouTube and slap the shit out of those guys. Saying, oh, well, you are God-related, blah, and talking shit about God, and it says to a God of your belief.
Right.
The fucking doorknob could be the God of your belief. It's whatever you believe in.
Right.
And all you're basically doing is giving yourself a goal and a program, like, to achieve, and 9 times out of 10, it's such a successful program that is still around 50, 60, 100 years later. I don't know how long it's been here, but it's successful because they follow a structured plan that has no leadership. It's everybody getting together with a common fight. And if that person wants to get sober, there's a step to do it.
Yeah.
And I walked into that program, and again, you can ask the savior over here, my wife, and I walked into this program going, this is bullshit. What the fuck are y'all on some high horse and shit? No,
shit works.
Once I opened up the big book and started reading, and I'm not big book thumping, I'm not AA thumping, but once I opened up that stupid book and started reading some of the stories, I'm like, fuck, I've been there. I've absolutely been there. Shit, I've done that. Well, I'm behind bars right now. I can relate to this guy. It's stories of, they've been through everything we have. And they talk about the reversal of the midbrain and the frontal cortex, how we start thinking backwards. And I'm like, dude, this shit is for real. People have been there. Now, when we get outside of it and we start looking how sober people look at it, they don't understand any of it. They will never grasp any of it. And that's where law enforcement and people have their disconnect. Because law enforcement is trained one way. It's drugs, don't care what they're on. We have a law. There's some cops that understand there's a gray area there. But a lot of the guys who like to hunt down the dopers, it's black and white. You have dope, you go to jail.
Right.
We don't care about getting them help. And anybody that says there's programs in the jails or prisons here, I've been to county and I've been to the Department of Corrections. There's no programs. Unless an inmate installs it or does it, they do it. They even took church out of the jails. I mean, there's nothing in there to get help. If you go to jail, they want you to work. You go make us some money. We'll pay you $3.50 an hour, and they're getting $12, $14 an hour. But there's no drug programs in there. And that's what the thing, which, because my mom even said it to herself. She's like, you're going to get so much help in there. I'm like, oh, yeah, no. I could have got help if I wanted to do more dope. Right. The shit was everywhere.
Yeah. So let's touch base on, let's start from where we left off, which was you contacted your department for help.
So in 2010, after I got my diagnosis, I went to the Employees Assistance Unit, and at the time consisted of 3 officers and a sergeant, probably a lieutenant and a commander, because you need that many people to watch one person. And told them, hey, listen, I have a pill addiction and I have PTSD, been diagnosed. Here you go. I had filed the FMLA paperwork with my boss to get the time off, and then since it was a work-related injury, I said work in industrial. So I filed all the paperwork. My incompetent boss at the time, and I hope he watches this, he was my boss in 2010, you're an idiot, didn't file my industrial properly and didn't file within the time frame that it was, because you have like 21 days or something. So 6 months later, they come back to me and say, you lost your 3 months. You got to pay that shit back. I'm like, what the fuck? So obviously, I fought it and got it. But I went to the Employees Assistance Unit. They said, yeah, okay, we'll see what we can do. So PTSD wasn't a common thing in law enforcement at the time. So they send me to a marriage counselor and tell me that this guy's used to working with law enforcement. Well, sure, with marriage stuff. I get in with this guy, get in front of this guy, has nothing to do with addiction, nothing to do with PTSD, and tells me that everything I'm doing will go away if I take this magic little pill, which I already told them I was allergic to benzos, so they put me on a different sleeping pill and something called Depakote. Tried it, didn't work, blah, blah, blah. So I took a couple months. I think I took like 6 months, 5 months working in a light duty capacity. Tried to go back to work, didn't work. It lasted like a day or two, and I froze up and went right back to the light duty thing, and then that's when they had me painting the curbs. But I called the Employees Assistance Unit back and they're like, hey, I went back to work, not happening. I'm not going to sit behind a desk redacting emails all day. Oh, and not to tell you, when I was sitting in the code enforcement, working light duty, I had a mild heart attack.
Jesus.
My stress level was so high that I literally fell out sitting there because I had just started my my medical retirement. Everything was going on with my drug use. Everything was just getting so bad in my life, inside and outside of work. My stress level went to the work, and I fell out. Went back to the Employee Assistance and said, listen, I'm fucking having heart attacks and shit. You guys need to do something to help me. Well, we'll keep you at the light duty job and get your medical going. Perfect. Well, most medicals take 6 months, 4 to 6, maybe 8 months at the most. Mine's 10 months into it, and I don't have shit going for me. Nothing. They're not even done with it. Because it's PTSD. What the hell's that? You're mentally unstable? Well,
are you seeing a doctor for your PTSD at this time?
I am at this time. I'm going to Crisis Preparation Recovery, great place, and they're feeding them all the stuff they need. And at the time, they're like, well, maybe it's because of all the shit you got going on outside of work.
Of course. Yeah,
I was addicted to pills. The department knew about it, and I was probably doing some shit I wasn't supposed to. But if they would have stepped in and helped me at the time, maybe that shit wouldn't have been going on. Because I started feeling like the department just started pushing back. And said, instead of saying, here, let's walk you out the door and kick you in the ass and say, have a nice day, it looks like they were trying to push back at me and push me into a corner until I fucked up.
Right.
And it got so stressful because all these other people going in and getting their medical retirements after 6 months. I'm 9, 10 months into mine going, what am I doing? What's going on? And like everything, once you're in a downward spiral, everything runs its course, and you obviously hit that fucking bottom. And I screwed up and was out trying to buy pills one day, and I got caught. Another officer had stated that I was selling to him after he popped positive on a thing, and kind of went downhill from there.
That was the IA that's pretty much solidified you going away.
That killed it. Yeah.
Right. So did what was your usage at that? You hadn't started heroin at that point.
Had started heroin. I had got a large settlement from a car accident in 2011, and beginning of 2011, almost $280,000, and I was spending probably $2,500 a week in extra pills, at 10 to 15 bucks a pill.
What pills were they?
The oxycodone 30 milligram, instant release. Yeah, the little blue ones.
So you just break those up?
Break them up, smash one up at a time, and I'd get 5 and get a little straw, smash them up, put them up the nose. I'm telling you one thing, it got rid of my PTSD for those couple hours.
Yeah.
Needless to know, I didn't know where the fuck I was, but,
Right.
you know, and I joke about it, but, you know, there should have been so many times where I overdosed. I mean, there would be days where, you know, the department would say something or do something to me, and I'd get so stressed out that, you know, I wouldn't care. I would go and hide somewhere at work and put 10 pills in a straw and sniff them and just hope I didn't wake up. And that wasn't just once. It wasn't just twice. It was a couple, like.
And that
10.
was functioning while you were on light duty.
That's why I was on light duty.
So then ultimately, how did you get to the point where you walked away from the pension?
I got street jumped January 5th of 2012 by my department on my way home from work one day. And they did a full search warrant on my house, vehicles. They found nothing. Like I said, this was all hearsay from
The other officer.
dickhead.com, whoever he was. So they thinking they're going to find heroin, pills, and everything at my house. Didn't find a damn thing. They found some tramadol that was prescribed to me a week before. Nothing in my car, but they got my phone, which I used to make drug transactions.
Right.
Okay, so they charged me with a couple, like 15 counts of conspiracy to sell, to purchase, you know, using a telephonic device.
Now, were you selling to other officers on the department, or were you selling
Sure.
outside?
Yeah, I was selling to other stores, 60 to be exact, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. There was a group of us, and I was told if I testified against them that they would let me have my pension,
Was that true?
and I decided not to.
So you walked away from a pension rather than flip?
Yep. I just figured that this was my mistake, and this was my way of covering up. Whatever they were doing, it was on them, and you know, it'd come back in full term wherever it needed to be.
So you resigned in lieu of?
And resigned in lieu of, yeah. They came to my house on March 23rd and picked up my gun and my badge, handed me my meet date with the chief. What is it called?
Exit interview?
No, it's called something.
So you go through that whole process, and when you leave, how do you land?
Flat on my face. I mean, they bring me my. I had a bunch of sick leave saved up, and a bunch of comp time saved up. They gave me everything I needed. Came and took everything that I had. They had a fucking checklist, and they took it. They made
Right.
sure that I had it. Even the batches that I bought, they took. And you know, there was no thank you for your 10 years of service. Thank you for your fucking fucked up mental state you're in right now. They pretty much just throw you out like a dead animal and hope that somebody picks you up before it starts stinking.
So what happened to the charges that they threw on you?
So August of 2012, me and my ex at the time, we'd go to Disneyland because I'm thinking, you know, it's been 6 months. These guys aren't going to charge me. You know, all they have is, like I said, I didn't realize how much they had on the phone. And since they had nothing, I'm thinking, you know, what's the most they're going to charge me? If they got rid of me, there's nothing else they want. But I was still fighting for my pension at the time. And they knocked on, I got home from Disneyland, and I went to Disneyland. This was before. I should have waited till after. So they knocked on my door, and I had U.S. Marshals at my door along with Gilbert PD. And the bad thing is I just had a surgery on my wrist. So I had more pain pills, and I had a black cast on my wrist. So I got the U.S. Marshals and, you know, Gilbert PD, who...
We'll go.
Yeah,
We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah. So I open up the door, and I'm like, I have a cast on my hand. Please do not fucking shoot me.
It's a cast.
It's a cast. And I come out. U.S. Marshals are great. Great guy. Hey, okay, cool. They zip tie me in front. And Gilbert's, you know, why don't you handcuff him in back? Well, he's got a cast on. Stupid. He's never going to get on. And I was a big boy at the time. And before I knew it, media was already on my street. And I see the lieutenant on the phone going, yeah, we've just arrested him. Like they wanted to broadcast all over the world that I was just arrested like I was somebody. Rushed me away, said that I had a $10,000 bond for all these counts of conspiracy. I was like, cool, I got it. You know, I had all my money, you know. So I was like, let me bond out. Took me down there, bonded out, and was back home that night. And that was it. That was my career. I quit, I had already quit in March, but that's when everything just went away because I was now facing felony charges. And pension board said, yeah, probably not going to happen. Just go ahead and give up on it.
Cash out.
Cash out. And so I did that, and it was like everything that I had left, that one little grasp of hope of kind of feeling good about my agency was gone. Because not only did they just say fuck you when I went to them for help, they just finally said fuck you, not knowing that all this was caused by them by putting me in that position. I own what I did. But when I went to them and not helping me and furthering my destruction, no, they got to take a little responsibility for that.
Yeah.
Because they left me high and dry when I begged for help. And it wasn't that I was just in their office once going, hey, you know, I'm kind of putting these up my nose, help me out. It was, hey, I need help. And the EAU guys at the time were great, but their hands were kind of tied because upper management was like, just send him where he needs to go. Send him here, try this, try that. And nothing that I had, until PISTLE, when you guys came out, I'd never heard PTSD attached to anything besides my diagnosis.
Right.
And it's funny because after that happened, well, what do you think, you know, I just lost my job. I just got arrested. I'm facing 14 felony counts. I'm looking at time. My life's over, right? So
Like,
what's on my thing? I'm going to kill myself.
Right.
I'm fucking done. You know, at least I got money right now. My kid will be taken care of. Suicide. I tried 11 times. I went out to the desert a couple times, tried to blow my head off. Was too big of a pussy to do that. I'd take a whole bunch of pills at one time. For some reason, I'd live. And then heroin got introduced to me. You know, I had
So before you get to that point,
Yeah.
Shellie, I want to ask you how, going back in that part of the story when he was asking for help, ideally, what help would have been the best help, aside from the obvious getting a doctor, but the right treatment? What would be the right treatment, in your opinion, for that?
I think a treatment that's effective is a treatment that brings a team together. And that's a team of peers. Like one of the things that I see is missing is in AA groups or any of those peer support groups is having one for law enforcement. Mm-hmm. We have great peer support for people who are in the medical field or in the legal fields, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know the specifics of it, but I believe it's like a 5-year program where they have to go every week, but they're able to keep their career at the same time. That's important. Because when we're talking about law enforcement, people don't just land in law enforcement for no apparent reason, right? There's social justice from growing up. I mean, they're married to that career. It's a career. It's not a job. Mm-hmm. It's a heartfelt place, right? So now we've taken that away from them. It's like the rug going out from underneath them, and there's no peer support. The other strength of AA and those types of peer support groups is their 24/7 safety, because safety has to come first when we're looking at treatment in anything like this, right? So when you have a sponsor, that's the only thing that I know of that's 24/7, where you can call a sponsor at any time when those cravings come up. Because when cravings come up, that's pain, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's suffering.
It ain't
right?
easy, yep.
No. I think it's one of the worst sufferings that a person can go through, and if you've never felt it, that's a luxury.
Yeah.
It's a huge luxury. Because that's when the midbrain is on fire and everything in the prefrontal cortex is offline. If we were to look at it under a SPECT scan, the prefrontal cortex where we make decisions, that's where choice lives, it's offline. It's black.
Mine's offline a lot.
And it's funny she says that.
And you're a sponsor, which is frightening.
That's scary. Call me.
Now take that.
Yeah.
So just so you know, at one point we did have 24-hour access to PISTLE. However,
I fucked that up.
Someone in this room decided to start texting somebody in this room.
Not it.
But they were
at
good
3:30
messages.
in the morning.
They were good messages. Tell me they were not good messages.
Oh, they were great messages.
Yeah.
I loved waking up at 3:30 in the morning to a text that said, pussy. Sure, I think Justin's okay right now. That's what I was thinking. I think he's okay.
Back on the subject, but quit trying to draw attention to me. But it's great what she says real quick is she's saying we're focused on that support system and everything. Now, as law enforcement, when we look at it, these people have that craving. Okay, now you sit there and go, what the fuck? This guy's on parole, he's on probation, yet he's still out here buying drugs, and he's still out here committing crime just to get that drug. Well, that's how overpowering that substance is. Because if you've ever been what's called dope sick, where you're sitting there, you're cramping, you're puking, you're shitting yourself, it hurts so intensely, and the anxiety feels like you're going to die. Mm-hmm. Now, until you get to that level, you have no idea what it is. So for somebody on the outside looking in going, you can just quit, it's free choice. It's not just a mental thing. It's a physically debilitating disease that it'll bring you to your knees. I mean, I've been to the point where I'm driving down the road, throwing up out the window, trying not to shit myself, heading to the dope man's house to get my fix because it's, begging people for money. Begging,
Right.
yeah, I'll take $5 right now. $5 right now.
And
Get me
I
a-
think that right, Shellie, I have that craving for alcohol. At my worst, I would crave it.
Mhm.
It's pain.
It sucks.
It's
because
different than I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
And I really want it badly. Craving is a whole other level of suffering.
Yeah.
People think you get joy
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
There's no joy in using drugs.
No.
You don't. It's fun the first couple. We all experiment. Okay. I've experimented with cocaine. I've experimented with. We were just talking about weed. I've had to drink alcohol. Yeah, the first couple times you do this is fucking cool. It's with pills. Oh, this is euphoric. This is great. First time with heroin. Good night. Going to sleep. But it becomes a have to need.
Yeah.
It's not I want. It's not, hey, let's go. No, it's a fucking I have to have it or I'm going to get sick.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get physically ill and violent physically ill. Alcohol, you go into seizures.
Yeah.
People who are on benzos, they can go into seizures and die. For people like me who's opiate addicts, we get on the floor, we're cramped up, we're rolled up in a little ball, sweating and going to chills.
Those were the worst.
That's
Watching
horrible.
people go through those
It's
withdrawals were horrible in
it's-
jails.
It's traumatic
Horrible.
just even watching
Yeah.
it, isn't it? And one of the things you're talking about, Justin, is really it's a progressive disease that occurs in stages. So at first, stage 1 is kind of like, yeah, this is really cool. I'm in high school. I'm looking forward to the Friday night. I'm experimenting. I'm doing all those things. But remember the 1 in 10. Remember the 1 in 10. If you're one of those 1 in 10, you are in the danger zone. And it only takes one time for a lot of brains. And for many people, Justin, it starts out just the way you described, where I have my first injury, I was given opiates, and all of a sudden I have that feeling of, opiates have that feeling of mother's love. They're warm. It's a very warm feeling. And have you ever wondered why some people are addicted to one thing and not another?
Yeah.
It's because their neurochemistry responds to that particular drug. It's like the puzzle pieces come together and there's a click. And you'll hear people say, I felt normal for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? All of a sudden, it's like my body was relaxed. And is that how other people are all the time? I had no idea. That's a really powerful moment. Then stage 2 is where, okay, now I need it to have fun. I can't imagine not having it. Now I'm starting to incur some consequences, but I'm still kind of driven to use. Have a couple of DUIs, not sure what that's about. Now in stage 3, it is absolutely out of my control. I have no control over it. I am falling apart. Everything's falling apart. And really, when we're talking about a progressive, by the way, terminal. This is a terminal disease. Even if I stop using today and I don't pick up my substance till 20 years later, when I pick it up 20 years later, the disease is going to be where it was as if I had been using the whole time. That's what I mean by progressive brain disease. It's not really about the use of the substance. It's always there. That's why recovery never stops. We don't have recovery and then we're done with recovery.
You don't beat it.
We don't
Right.
beat it. It's a progressive brain disease and it is terminal.
And see, that's the most difficult thing for most families to understand is, and they say, people don't want cancer. I don't want to be a fucking drug addict. I don't want to think about drugs every day, which I do. I wake up in the morning, I think, damn, it'd be nice. It'd be really nice. 5 to 7 years in prison doesn't sound nice. But if I was to get back on it, and I was to go down that roller coaster, what do you think would happen? I wouldn't be able to stop. 5 to 7 years would mean nothing to me.
No.
As long as I was high that day, I don't care. And that's the problem, is society as a whole, all non-addicts, most of the people know or have somebody in their families with an addiction problem. Or most of the people have an addiction problem and don't realize it or don't want to admit it. The biggest problem is, once we get there, the outsiders want to try or know that they have the solution. Oh, well, we're going to spend $10,000 and put you in this great rehab facility, blah, 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 and we're going to force you to go. And like I said last time, you can force anybody to do what you want, but if that person doesn't want to get clean, I mean, Manny, how many times did my parents, intervene with me and say, oh, you're fucking going or you're going to jail? Yeah. I didn't want to get clean. I didn't care. It took me a long time to care again. And it took me a long time to get over a lot of, Dave asked me one time why do I punish myself for what I did? Well, I couldn't answer that question. Today I can answer that question because I've progressed in my recovery with PTSD. And then my dad asked me, well, why can't you just stop? Dumbest fucking question in the world.
Yeah.
If I could answer why I couldn't fucking stop,
I wouldn't be doing
Be
it.
done.
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be looking at jail time. I wouldn't be on probation. I would still be a cop, And it's all, I even asked myself that when I first started the fucking drug, when I was having fun with it. This is probably not a good idea.
So what happened with the adjudication of the case ultimately with the charges?
$30,000 later and a great lawyer later, I got probation. They pled me down to conspiracy to possess.
Any felonies behind you?
Yeah, I at that time it was open. It was a Class 6 open. So if I would have kept my shit together, I would have had a misdemeanor and my life would be fine. You know.
Now at that point, you weren't slamming heroin.
I was slamming heroin.
Oh, you were. Okay, so let's go to that part.
So
how did you get from the opioids snorting to the first time you shot?
Shortly after I was arrested in August, I got out that night, and then at a party with one of my buddies in 2012, and took me in a back room and said, "Hey, you got pills?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he goes, "Well, I've got something you'll like better." And I'm like, "Well, how in the fuck could I like that better? I'm getting these free, and I get high instantly." He goes, "Well, have you ever shot up?" And I'm like, "Well, I will never. I've never used a needle." And he goes, "And I won't." And he goes, "Well, yeah, you will." And I was very vascular at the time, worked out every day. And I'm like, "All right." And he goes, "Just put a little bit of this in here, melt it up, and put it in your veins, see what happens."
That's not a cop you're talking about, though, right?
Yeah, it was.
Again with friends.
God damn.
Again with friends. These friends of yours.
And,
First one says, "Smash these pills, check it out." The other one's like, "Hey, here's a needle."
By the way, it's the same one.
Oh, okay, well that makes sense. Not two totally different guys.
So, you know,
That makes me feel better.
A lot better.
I hit it up, and I wake up 2 hours later. I literally passed out for 2 hours. I woke up, and I was still high. I'm like, this is the most amazing thing that ever happened. This is better than the hospital shit. And that was my introduction to heroin. And it was, you know, your average 30 milligram oxycodone was going for, you know, $15-20 at the time, sometimes $1 a milligram. Obviously, when my script ran out and these little fuckers knew I had money, they charged me $20 a pill, and I'd pay it because I had to have it.
You're a fiend.
Well, with heroin, a gram of heroin would last me 3 days, you know. So, you know, you buy an ounce of heroin for $600. That's 28 grams. Last me a month or two, you know, and that's what I progressed into.
What was your first amount of usage? Like, what was your normal?
Oh, a nickel, you know, if that, just a very small amount. Even
that would get you through the whole day?
Oh, no, that'd get me through about 3 or 4 hours. I have such a high tolerance and I get there really quick. I get to those tolerances really quick. So, say I'm taking one pill one day, 2 days later I'm going to take a pill and a half. 4 days later I'm going to be at 2 pills. I mean, that's how I progress. I progress really quickly, and I have no idea why. I wish I didn't. I wish I had the slow, progression, but it wasn't like that with me. I mean, you know, it's when I got real heavy into heroin, I would go from taking a half a gram in the morning to slamming another half a gram in the middle of the day to maybe a gram at night. I mean, that's how much I was doing at a time, to where I was like, how in the fuck am I not dead? When I tried to OD one time, I put 2 grams in a steroid rig and tried to slam it. I woke up 4 hours later. I was like, how in the fuck am I still alive? I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm either really bad at this.
So at this point, you're off the department. You have a house?
Done, yeah.
You have a wife,
I have a house, have a wife, have kids.
Is she aware that you're slamming?
Let me be political about this. She was promoting the heroin use so she could use the pills.
She wasn't a cop, was she?
No. She was doing the pills and saying it was okay to use the heroin. But when she'd find my heroin hid in the house, dumbass would throw it away on me, so I'd have to go buy more and waste money. I'm like, why are you throwing it away when you know I'm using, so I have to go buy more? Makes no sense, but that's obviously half dozen one, six in the other.
Right. So you're using at this point, what year is it?
It's 2013.
And how is it, kind of go over your life at that point?
Oh, God. Can't find work. Not trying to find work, living off my savings. Just life's horrible. I mean, you know, my kids are running around at home. I'm in the bathroom for hours, hitting up, falling asleep. I'm just neglecting everything in my life.
Anybody from the department call check on you?
Negative.
None of the guys you worked with?
None.
Kicked doors with?
Nope. Guys that I had been...
That doesn't surprise you.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
I was
at
gonna
all.
say.
and
thought maybe it'd be different.
And I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen when it happened. I knew that they'd have to go away. I knew that they wouldn't, you know, because at the time I was all over the news. My name was not very fun to sound to be with. No matter what the fuck I did for them,
right,
or with them, or helped them with, whenever, you know, the shit we did on duty, I wasn't their friend anymore. And that's one thing that fucking actually hurt. That's one thing that drove a lot of my depression was, oh my God, you guys went through all this shit, but I'm going through it now. Where are you guys at? Just because you were, you know, even the guys that were buying from me stopped fucking calling me. I was like, you don't have to buy shit from me, but you can at least call and say hi to me.
Yeah.
You know, make sure I'm okay. And even in passing, I'd see other officers, hey, how you doing? And they look at me like they didn't know me. And I'm the kind of person who'll call you out on that shit. You know, I'm just not. I don't care. You know, I saw, and I won't mention his name, but was my very close friend. I mean, hung out a lot with the guy. I walked by him, I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He looked at me and goes, "Yeah, why are you saying hi to me?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck you. You know, how dare you? I could have thrown your ass under the bus.
Right.
How dare you treat me like that?" But eventually I just realized that they had families, and they realized what they did, and I hope in some way they were thankful for what I did, but they were still wrong for what they're doing. But they're grown-ass men. It's not my area to make their choice, but at least give me a fucking hello.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
you're slamming heroin. Your PTSD's out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting any treatment at all for PTSD?
None.
At all?
None.
Nothing.
There's nothing. There's nothing. Every doctor I tried to go there up to this point had no fucking clue how to treat me. I even tried to go and look for war vet doctors, and they said that the way I describe stuff, they weren't really going to be able to help me a lot, but they'd be able to treat some of this stuff. You know, I guess maybe I could have looked more, but after a couple of them, I was just like, there's nobody who's going to be able to help us.
So, as you're going through this fucking hell
Debacle.
Yeah. How do you come across us? Pistol.
Oh, God, when Craig Tiger.
Oh, the media?
I saw his story on the news, and I heard, them talking about you guys, and I'm sitting at my parents' house. Now I'm completely divorced by myself, living at my parents' house, and I see this story on the news, and I'm like, oh my God, these guys are doing law enforcement stuff here in Phoenix. I thought you guys were out of state, and I was like, fuck. And then I said you guys were in Phoenix. I'm like, holy shit, I got a call. And I think I called you that night or the next day.
Yeah.
And then you scheduled a meet. But
you failed to tell us you were a heroin junkie.
Yeah. I was too embarrassed about my background, thinking I was going to be, like I said, thinking I was going to be judged, thinking that you guys were so new that you wouldn't be able to handle my case because I'm so fucking special.
Right. And it wouldn't matter. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. But, I mean, at some point, we realized you were slamming heroin.
Oh, yeah.
You were on the nod in the meetings.
Coming to meetings, going to the bathroom for 5 minutes, coming out and like this.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
We'd be nudging each other in the meetings like, this motherfucker's on the nod over here. We knew you were retired. Nobody knew the extent or whatever. But, so you show up to group, and I got to tell you, it was far more animated while you were there.
Sure.
And so you're having these struggles. I think I don't know if I confronted you or maybe one of the days after group we pulled you aside and said, hey, we know you're fucking using here.
Yeah. What happened was I'd come into that. I'd had a very bad weekend that week, and I think group was on Monday or Tuesday, something like Monday. And I decided to come to group, and I had such a shitty. I think I texted you all night on Sunday night, going, "Hey, I'm going to be at group tomorrow,"
right.
and I needed my attention. I needed, "Hey, look at me, I'm over here." Yeah. So I got there, and it's funny because I went and scored before I got there because I knew that I was going to open up. I knew that I was going to try to ask for help more than I ever had. And I went in the bathroom, I shot up right before group, and I lost all balls to try to ask for any help. And I'm so glad you guys confronted me that day, because you guys pulled me out and said, listen, dude, you just got to be honest. You're coming in here and falling out during the meetings, are you? I'm like, yeah, I am. I came clean, and it was actually the easiest thing I'd ever done, and never been more scared to even tell anybody, because now I've got to sit in front of a group of cops and open up like that. And you don't have to share. I'm like, no, I want to. I want to get off my back. I'm tired of this monkey stabbing a needle in my back.
Right. Yeah, we did have Dave and I had to address some of that because some of the officers weren't very happy. But one of the things that I told one of the officers that didn't want to sit in the room with you because he said you were a junkie was I said, hey, he's a cop. And as a cop, we went out and we helped junkies all the time. Why would we leave this guy? So we basically took a stand and said, look, you don't want to be here, you're not welcome. And he never came back, but you did. And I remember, we'll go forward a little bit to when you were really, really bad. And you're two of the rules in PISTLE, which I think you hold the most. But when you decided that you were going to go off the deep end and call me
sure.
Every minute for the next hour and a half to tell me that you're going to kill yourself. And I don't remember, how much of that day do you remember?
I don't remember much. Around 3 o'clock is when we actually started talking, when I started the suicidal thing. And I had made the commitment. I was going to kill myself that day, and I wanted everybody to fucking know about it. And I didn't want to kill myself. I just did not ask for help, and you know that. And and I tried. I mean, I tried to OD again that day, but I didn't have enough money to buy enough dope to do it. So I just went and got high and hoped I die. You know?
Yeah, he calls nonstop, and him and I were arguing. But you got to understand, Justin's a lot thinner than what he was then, because he was, lifting a lot, steroided out. He was pretty yoked up, and he's calling me, telling me, I'll fucking kill myself, and I'm trying to talk him off a ledge. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and then I start realizing that he's wanting this attention. And so finally, I got fed up with him. And he calls me after like the 100th time, and he's like, and I got Mesa looking for him. There's an ATL for him. Another officer with pistol. We're going all over Mesa looking for him. And he calls me. He's like, God, I'm going to fucking do it. And I'm like, you know what, Justin, just fucking kill yourself so we can get on with our life. And I hang up on him. And I think it pissed him off. Because he calls me back, and it was like some kind of Jedi mind trick. And he's like, I'll fucking beat your ass. And I said, well, where the fuck are you? I'll beat your ass too, motherfucker. Let's go. And so in his heroin stupor, he says, okay, I'll meet you. And I get him to meet me at McKellips and Gilbert. And we're driving down there, and I was pissed. And I'm like, oh, this motherfucker shows up so I can put it right in his fucking dick, because he's pissing me off. And he's standing in the middle of the parking lot, and he's fucking got his hands up like we're going to fight in the middle of the fucking prison yard. And I jump out of the car, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? And we come together, and we just hug each other. It was
the gayest fight you've ever seen.
Fight you've ever seen in your life. And there were, like, he broke down, and then I broke down, the other officer broke down, and then we're like, hey, let's go get Mexican food. And we went over across, we got Mexican food. But the funny part is that we got him to rehab that day, and his parents had shown up. And he's like, I'm not going with my fucking mom and dad. I'm like, Justin, I'll take you to rehab. Your mom and dad are going to meet us there. So we get from Gilbert and McKellips, and we jump on the freeway. We're going north, and him and I are listening to Taylor Swift, Blank Slate. We actually like that song. Like, I just thought this is going to make a good story one day. A heroin freak and somebody who's PTSD out listening to fucking Taylor Swift.
It was awesome.
It was a great day.
Great.
It was successful, to say the least. So you're completely spun up, and you're out of control. You get committed. There's something that you always talk about when you've spoken in the past that pissed you off. What did I tell your mom when we admitted you? Do you remember? You remember what I told your mom about you being a heroin junkie?
No.
I
know you said, and it's been so long ago that once an addict, always an addict. Yeah.
And it pissed you off.
It really did. It actually really hurt me, and I didn't realize that what dynamic you were speaking of it. That I thought you were just calling me a junkie, going to be a fucking junkie, he's going to do everything. No, but you're right. Once an addict, I'm always going to be an addict.
Right.
And you understood the addiction part, and I didn't think you did, because I remember calling you on it, because I was mad at you, and I was talking shit. I'm like, that motherfucker doesn't know me. You don't know what And the thing is, you probably knew me better than me at that point, because you knew what I was going through. And I know now that you didn't mean that in such a negative way that I took it. But my parents took it as, oh, always going to be a junkie, huh? And it's once an addict, you're always going to have that addiction. You're always going to have that craving. You're always going to have that. Doesn't mean you have to follow the addiction, but you're right. Once an addict, always an addict.
So you come out of rehab that I dropped you off on. You don't get any better.
No, I take pills the moment I get out.
And then what ends up happening that leads you to the prison yard?
Well, okay, so my life's falling apart. Okay, me and my girlfriend at the time, we separate. I go move in with my brother who ripped me off. Anyway, I go move in with him, and I need to score, and my ex has my money. So I drive over there where she's in the house with another dude, in my house with all my shit in it, and sleeping with some other dude. So I go and grab my money, get the fuck out of there. I call and threaten to beat his ass next time I see him. I make the bright decision to go to my parents' house because I don't have enough money to score enough dope, and start robbing from my parents. Start robbing and stealing from my parents. And go and pawn my mom's wedding ring, because I'm a piece of shit at this time, and get $5,000 for it to go buy dope.
How long did that last you?
You know what? I didn't spend it all. No. I spent $1,000 of it, and then realized what I had done, and realized that they knew, and called my sister 3 days later after again trying to kill myself, because now I'm a huge piece of shit, because I just stole my mom's wedding ring and fucking pawned it to buy dope money. That's when I knew I had hit rock bottom. That's when I knew everything was, my life was over at that point. I wanted to die. I didn't care. The two people in my life that have never turned their back on me, I just stole from.
Right.
So 3 days later, I call my sister. I'm staying at the Motel 6 at 27th Avenue and Indian School.
Fine location.
Fine establishment. And, you know, I still had dope on me. I still had $4,000 of what they gave me. So she comes over and picks me up, and I don't think I ever gave them the money back. I can't remember what I did with the money. Regardless, my sister says she doesn't know where my dad is. My dad's calling all of his sheriff's office buddies. They're going to come get me because it's time for either I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to go to prison. Right. That's my choices. There's no rehab. There's no detox. You're going to fix yourself by prison or death.
Yeah.
So my dad has his boys come and safely take me into custody because he didn't want another agency to do it because I was suicide by cop. I was threatening it. I wanted to die and somebody was going to fucking kill me. And so safely takes me into custody. I know at this point my mom's going to press charges. I'm good with it. I say I'm ready to go. No matter what they give me, I'm going to take it and accept it. I ended up getting 2.5 years in Department of Corrections. Was sentenced on April of 2015. And then that started my fun stay there. That was a new journey. But I had been clean for 3 months before my sentencing, which was nice because I was sober. I could accept my flaws and start to rebuild myself.
What was it like when you were getting processed? Stepping in there on the other side of that?
Humiliating, you know, because I saw people I knew there. Obviously, Phoenix is a large department, but it had to be the people I knew on the day that I went in. Oh, what the fuck happened? You know, you don't have a fucking...
You're talking about guys, uniform guys.
Yeah, uniform guys. And I'm like, you don't have a fucking clue what I've been going through. Leave me the fuck alone. And I didn't want to talk to them. I was still high when I stepped in there. You know, I didn't want to deal with that shit. I don't give a fuck what you think of me at this point. I've fucking killed whatever I thought was my family left. You know, what they thought of me by what I did. And, you know, amazingly, that 3 months before, you know, that I was getting sentenced, my mom had forgiven me for what I had done and showed up to speak on my behalf for sentencing, which was amazing. You know, it was awesome.
So that first night, what was it like going into that first night? As a former police officer, now you're on the other side of that.
I'm sitting in a cell by myself.
Because you're PC.
PC, protective custody, in a 10 by 12 cell, which is this fucking dirty toilet, no TV, no books. All you get to do is sit there and reflect. And the shit food they feed you, you're just going, what the fuck led to this? And it hurt. It hurt really bad because I knew I was there because I hurt my mom. And it was bad, you know? I had the most amazing support group. And this fucking drug did whatever it could to take him from me. And it will. That drug grabs you. It doesn't care who your loved ones are. It doesn't give a shit, but it'll grab you. And it'll make you do the most fucked up things to make sure you're okay. And it did. My best friend in the entire world had to sit there and look at me in stripes after seeing me in uniform. You know, my poor fucking dad couldn't even show up. I mean, I destroyed him. But my mom in sentencing just looked at me like, it's those looks you'll never forget. Wow, she's sorry. She forgives me and she loves me. And to hear her speak in front of the judge after, you know, and I know it was just a possession thing, and she knew that I was going to be okay going to prison. But it's just like, what happened to you? And it's just that look of, she doesn't want to be disappointed.
Right.
But she's not happy. So when they gave me my sentence, we all asked for leniency because I was facing up to 5. And they gave me the mitigating minimum, which was 2.5. And, you know, I looked at my mom and, you know, they cleared the courtroom out because I was a retired police officer. And my mom and my sister both stepped up and spoke on my behalf. And I got to say goodbye to them, and it was the hardest goodbye. But I wanted him to say goodbye to that Justin, because I didn't want him to ever see him again.
Right.
And they didn't, you know. And remember looking at my mom that day, thinking, you know, they're not going to have anything to do with me when I get out. You know, they're going to blow me off, and I'm just going to be on my own. And my mom goes, okay, as soon as you can, write me. And, you know, call me, you know, they say it's going to be 3 months till you'll be able to get your phone service. So write me, and as soon as I can, I'll visit you. And I'm going, what the fuck are you talking about? I just stole from you for drugs. And she's like, I know it wasn't you. And that was awesome, you know. She knew that it was the drugs.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I couldn't justify it. You know, in my heart, I had broken hers. And like I said, that lady was there for everything.
You good over there, T? Catch your breath.
Yeah. It's a hard story to listen to. The things that I think about are, you know, I didn't work with Justin, so it's kind of easy to put him in a box and say, you know, he was never he must have never been the officer that I would have ever worked with. But as he tells this story, I sit and think about it could be anybody that I worked with, and that's hard to listen to and think that he could be anybody. So it's hard.
And it is anybody. When you say that, it's any one of us out there right now that are hiding. Because you're out there, right? And I want to tell you, if you get help, it does get easier. But if you don't, you're going to wind up like this. And you're going to wind up with a bunch of fucking regrets. And then you're going to be sitting there in a fucking cell going, God damn it, I should have listened to somebody.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, the path that I went down, you know, we haven't even got to what happened to me when I got to the yard, you know.
How long before they moved on you when you got there?
Oh, fuck, 5 minutes.
As soon as you walked out?
I walked into the yard, and
because they knew you were a cop?
They knew I was a cop. They knew I was coming. I mean,
it was all over the media.
Oh, yeah, and I hit the yard, and I was there 5 minutes. I got my bunk, and I had no prison etiquette. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't fucking...
What did they classify you? What level?
I was 2, minimum.
2, minimum?
Yeah. So I hit Alhambra, and fuck. I was there literally 5 minutes. I sit there, started reading a book. I just got myself comfortable in a little pad. I was scared shitless. I was in a room with 18 people, fit for 10. And right away, they're like, you're that cop, right? And I'm like, motherfucker. And I'm a big boy at this time, mind you. I'm still working out. Yeah. I'm still staring at it. I'm still probably 230 at this point. And I'm thinking, yeah, what's up? Got hit from the back. Got hit from the side. Got taken down. And got kicked in the stomach. Got my teeth knocked out. And I hit one of them. I was so happy. I was like, yeah, I got
one on it.
Knocked you out. Right? And, you know, I took an ass beating for a little bit. And they don't stop. It's not like on the street where somebody's going to break you up. It's you got to pray they get tired.
Right.
And I just cuddled up in the fetal position and took it. And it was the hardest thing to write my parents back and say, hey, listen, got in a fight today. It went well.
It went well.
I'm still alive. Yeah, that was... so then they isolated me on top of being isolation. I didn't know you could be PC on top of PC, but apparently you can. And then when I actually went to a physical yard, I hit, you know, thank God for my amazing father. Got me into Sunrise at the time, which was a level 1 yard, level 1s and 2s, and that was like, that was good prison. You know, ex-cops there and a bunch of good people there, and it was a working yard, so that's when I started doing the prison thing.
How long were you on the main line?
19 months.
19 months. So you had to fight 19 months, but gladiator
Yeah,
school basically.
yeah. It's and it's in PC. It's a little different. Like I have a scar on my lip right here. About 4 months in, a youngster came in, didn't like me because I was an ex-police officer and was going to show that he could whip my ass, and got into it, got me right in the mouth, cut my lip wide open, knocked him out, started trying to fucking kick him in the stomach, just lost all complete control because that's how you did it. And then he had no marks on him, little cut above his eye. I'm fucking got this big gaping hole in my mouth, and got kicked off the yard for that. Had to go up to a 3 yard for a month, which is all the killers and
that's
and
all the
that's
hardcore
all
gangsters.
are
on
bad.
3.
Thank God that there was an ex-police officer I was over with that nobody knew was a cop. I don't know how the fuck he didn't know there was a cop because he was all an ex-Pinal guy. And he took care of me when I was over there. Then a month later, I was back on the main yard for my good behavior, and that I told them that they were going to kill me if they didn't get off this side. And then my prison career was great after that. I mean,
Stayed at level 1?
I stayed at level. I was level 2. I stayed at 2 the whole way, and then got out of there without any more marks or bruises. And
What yards did you hit?
Bachman.
The whole time?
Bachman and Sunrise. Sunrise was the first yard, and the Kingman decided to destroy their prison. And since they were GP and they had a voice, they got Sunrise, which was an amazing place, and we got moved over to Bachman, which was a shithole. And then we stayed over there. I worked with the truss crew for a little bit, and then I got put on the mortar pool and got to drive the warden's cars around. And I'll tell you one thing, man, prison's its own society in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of drugs that were coming in and out of there, and thank God that I stayed sober in there.
How did you stay clean?
My kid. That if my kid was coming to visit me once or twice a month, and if I ever tested dirty,
They yanked the visits?
they yanked the visits. And, that'd be the hardest thing for the... my mom came and visited me the first weekend she could, which surprised me. I didn't think I'd see her. I was talking to her on the phone already, and I was like, yeah, I can have visitation this weekend. She just said, okay, and she showed up, and that first hug with my mom was the most amazing hug. You could tell that she forgave me, and
Yeah.
that was awesome. It was great to see her, but at the same time, your mom's visiting you in prison. I mean, it's like, fuck, like I said, I could remember driving down the fucking road in my police uniform,
Yeah.
and now I'm hugging my mom wearing orange. Thank God I'm okay, but... And then my kid coming there, Jesus Christ, man. Having your, 6, 7-year-old kid wanting to play tag in the yard, in the visitation yard, or playing, board games with them, and...
It's a mindfuck.
You just want to be a good dad. And the drugs will make you be a shitty dad. You just don't care. I mean, it's how you put it. You just don't care about the important stuff in life. And with the PTSD being so out of control at that point, my kid, my family, nothing mattered. The drug, the stopping the shit up here is what mattered.
Right.
And the drug use stopped it because I didn't have any other resources at that point, and they didn't believe in anything. I was so far gone when you guys found me. There was gonna be no fixing me.
Yeah.
Well,
you found us. We didn't find you.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, yeah. When I found you guys, I was too far gone. There's nothing you guys could have done. I took the path I needed to take to get help.
Right.
And unfortunately, that was the path. And it's a shitty path, but it was suicide or prison. And I'm so glad, thankful today I'm here.
How long clean?
July of 17.
So, 2 years?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I relapsed in 17 when my dad had his heart attack.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, God, and I'll tell you that story real quick. What a mind fuck there. Doing everything right. My life's good. I'm single. I'm working my ass off. Got a great job. My father stepped up and got me a great job. Helped me buy a nice truck. Parents are letting me stay with them. They believe in me wholeheartedly. I'm doing great. You know what my gift was when I got out of prison? I got out of prison in November of 16. In December of 16, I got shingles.
I remember that.
That was my Christmas gift.
That was some funny shit with you with shingles. I
Oh
remember
my
that.
God. Now, mind you, I'm an opiate addict, so I can't take
Yeah.
opiates.
You were in pain, bro. You did good. I was proud of you because you weren't popping anything with that.
It was the toughest fucking thing.
You walked
in
like
the
a
world.
robot. I remember you walking like a robot.
And I was working construction at the time.
Yeah.
So I've got these sweaters, these coats, and like 10 bottles of anti-itch numbing lidocaine cream, and taking Neurontin to stop the nerve pain. I'm like, oh my god! So I went through 3 months of hell with that, and then I was working, and then in July I'd come home from work, and my mom had called my sister and said your dad had had a heart attack. And not funny, but the crazy thing about it was the day before, me and my dad were outside stripping vinyl off a van, the outside lettering and stuff. And he was outside helping, and I remember it being pretty hot outside. And I remember my dad getting tired. Now, that guy's Superman to me. That guy can lift anything, touch anything. He doesn't get tired. I've seen that guy's a machine. And got tired that day and went inside, and I'm like, that's weird. Okay, no big deal. Well, the next day I go to work, and I'm on my way home, and I get a call going, your dad's at the hospital. You need to get down there. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong? Just get down there. And I'm like, did he have a heart attack? Like, yes, there's doctors rushing him into emergency surgery. And I'm like, well, that ain't good. I've been through this on calls. And so what happens?
Yeah.
Up here starts, there's the
demons come out.
decision making. The decision making is already done. I'm going right back to the old habits. I'm already thinking about heroin before I even get there. I'm already, I need to shut this up.
Yeah.
This is hurt. If my dad dies, it's going to be like seeing officers die. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go through that. All that bad PTSD stuff starts roaring back in. And not that it hadn't been before, but I had been staying busy and been able to control it by staying busy and having good thoughts, doing well, doing my program, doing everything I'm supposed to. Well, I get to the hospital, and the fucking doctor starts off talking to me and my mother like this. We tried to do everything we could.
Oh, those motherfuckers. How do we do that shit?
We tried to do everything we could. I didn't even want to hear the rest.
Yeah.
I fucking stomped out of there, got in my fucking car.
Called a dealer, huh?
And everything came flooding back. I mean, my shootings, everything was right back there. And now I have my dad who's gone. I don't know if he's gone, but the way the doctor's talking like it. So the needle was already in the arm before I... figuratively, the needle was already in the arm before I got the information. It was still okay, but it's too late at that time.
And he's still with us, right?
He's still with us. Yeah, he's doing great. He's an old stubborn bastard, and I love you, Dad, but he's still doing good.
He's a no nonsense kind of guy too.
He is a go fuck yourself. You don't like it kind of guy. It's my way or the highway, or you can get the fuck off the bus.
Well, I appreciate you coming out, Justin, and having a conversation with us and keeping it real. Shellie, before we wrap up, for those spouses out there or those officers that are struggling, that feel like this is a choice and they can't beat it, how would you articulate that to spouses or to the officers that believe that they're weak and that the drug or the alcohol or whatever the addiction is stronger than them?
I would still come back to this is a medical issue, not a moral issue. One of the things that you were just bringing up that I think is so important is when you look at where trauma lives, it lives in the midbrain in the same place where addiction lives. So the two play off of each other. So that kind of stress absolutely is triggering, not only to the PTSD, but to the addiction itself. That's huge. And just to even understand, for us to change our language, to even look at suicidality and the way that it plays out here, right? Because when someone's been addicted for a long time, they've been numb for so long that they haven't learned any other coping skills. So the suicidal ideation, it isn't about wanting to die. And tell me if this fits for you. It's really about just wanting to stop the pain.
Yes.
That's the bottom line, right?
100%.
But the brain doesn't have any other options in that moment. So it goes to the one thing that it knows, and that is if I end it, I can get out of this pain. That's what that's about. Mm-hmm. And so when we hear people saying that they're suicidal or that they want to die, if we can really listen to that and hear it in a different way so that we can respond instead of react, that's really important. Because I hear so many places in your story, and I think your story is so important to tell. Because I can't tell you how many people I meet who are like, well, not me, that wouldn't happen to me. But damn, it happens to you if you're the 1 in 10.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get to choose that. You don't get to say, hey, am I going to be the 1 in 10? I'm going to be the 9 out of 10. No problem. You don't get, that's where you don't have any choice at all.
Right.
And you don't know when you're in that stage 1 and you're experimenting and you're going into that, is it going to happen to you? It's Russian roulette, literally. It can happen to any of us in this room. And honestly, any of us in this room, we have had addiction to things. We call it passion sometimes. I'm passionate about my job. People could tell you I'm addicted to what I do for a living. I would agree with that. right? I think about it all the time. On my days off, I'm kind of wishing that I was at the office, right? I'm missing it. I'm craving it. I wake up in the middle of the night. So we have to also get real with ourselves that this isn't the thing that happens to the other guy. This happens to all of us.
That was awesome.
Thanks for sharing your story.
One more thing, I'm going to repeat it again. You're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was alone, and I wasn't. I just didn't know where to look, and this, I'm telling you right now, if you even think there's a niche of it, because it'll sneak up on you quicker than shit, and it'll bite you in the ass, and at that point it's too late.
It'll take everything you have
without
a thought at all.
There's not that reflection when I met Justin was holy shit, that could be me.
Yeah.
Like I never thought I would slam heroin, but I can see that path occurring as you start pushing the limits because you're not getting the shut off that you need, and to feel that craving, you know, because there's times where I get triggered and I'm already 2 glasses into my, you know, I'm thinking I'm already as soon as I get home I'm gonna pour myself some fucking wine or whiskey or whatever.
Well, I think that's what officers do. I'll never get to that point, but they're gonna sit and fucking drink themselves silly every fucking night or whatever.
Right.
Like, you know, it's no different.
Or buy things, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, shopping addiction is big. It's a process addiction. It causes the same chemical change in the brain. How many people do you know work overtime to pay a credit card bill that they can't pay?
And I'll tell you one thing. I was that person who thought they could never beat the addiction, or I could never get off of it.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't beat, like we said, but it's something that you can prevent every day. I'm not planning for tomorrow right now. I don't know if I'm going to be sober tomorrow, but I'm sober right now, and I'm sober today.
Right.
That's all I can ask for. And that's all I'm going to ask for is one day at a time. But don't let it get to the point where you start, and it's with anything, you start thinking that, oh, well, I can do it on my own, I can fix it, I'll be okay, or I don't have PTSD. That's bullshit. This is normal because everybody else is saying it's normal. Fuck what everybody else says. You got to listen to what your mind is saying. If you're in trouble, you know it.
Yeah, you feel it.
Yeah, you know the first moment you wake up and say, God damn it, I don't feel right, or this feels fucked up, I'm scared. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I used to be ashamed. I used to be, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Fuck you. My dad says I'm strong. No, I'm not my dad. I'm me.
Right.
You know, and like I said, my dad is not me. I'm not my dad. My dad's a champ. My dad's the strongest person I know. I'm not.
Well, I got to tell you, Justin, I'm proud of you, brother. I remember that phone call you gave me when you came out of prison. We went down, I picked you up, we had a little subway. I was like, I'm sitting across from a cop, ex-con. Good dude. He's a good dude. Yeah. And that dude, he's never not been there for us.
The fact that he's willing to put himself out there on this fucking thing is just, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, my brother, I didn't bring you a cigar, but as always, I'll bring you one. Don't worry, you come back. We'll have you back on the podcast. To us and those like us, right? Shellie, I appreciate it, and we definitely have you guys back, you and Lauren at the same time, because we need a little bit more properness on here, I guess, because this is about as proper as we've been in a long time.
We've actually been very good.
We were really good. There were no
Last
titties
week was a
flashing.
debacle.
That was bad.
Boobies.
But we'll just end it there. So we appreciate you guys coming out.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks,
inviting
Manny.
me.